And now I'd like to introduce you to our next speaker, Louis Paolo. Louis is the Communications Director at the New Jersey Policy Perspective, where he develops and directs communication strategies that promote their research and help shape the public debates on their policy priorities. Louis works closely with the media and other partners and stakeholders and acts as a spokesperson for NJPP. Before joining NJPP in 2018, Louis was the Legislative Director for the New Jersey Working Families Alliance. He also served as a councilman in his hometown, Dumont, New Jersey, from 2016 through 2019. A proud product of New Jersey's public schools, Louis received his Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from Ramapo College of New Jersey. Please put your hands together for Louis.
Have you ever gotten into an argument with a friend or family member about what a word means? I know I sure have. For example, is a hot dog a sandwich? It's a very controversial question because it depends on what your definition of a sandwich is. Does it have to do with the type of bread that's used? Or maybe the meats and cheeses that go in between? Or how it's sliced and all put together? There's a lot to consider. But this presentation, we're not going to talk about what a sandwich is or isn't. We're going to talk about the definition of a different word, one far more powerful. So powerful that in New Jersey, the very meaning of this word would determine who would get hundreds of millions of dollars in tax credits and who wouldn't. That word is affordability. But what are we really talking about here? See, I'd like to tell the analysts at NJPP that in this business, we write policy reports, not mystery novels. We don't bury the lead. You've all heard this one before. So to practice what I preach and not bury the lead any more than I already have, what we're really talking about today is the role of communications and narrative change in policy campaigns. We will also be talking about how, earlier this year, New Jersey became the 9th state in the nation to enact its very own fully refundable state-level child tax credit. Make no mistake, this is a huge, huge win for working families and kids in every corner of New Jersey. This is also a policy win that wouldn't have been possible without the rock-solid research and strategic communications of the folks at NJPP. And I want to give a shout-out to two folks in particular. First, Peter Chen, our senior analyst, who spearheaded this campaign and drove it from start to finish. And Erica Boland from our communications team, who designed some of the stuff that you'll see later on in this presentation. But to understand how we got here and to see what makes this policy win so remarkable, we're going to have to turn back the clock to appreciate some big shifts in New Jersey's political landscape and how a big debate over this word, affordability, made this all possible. Let's rewind. It's the spring of 2017. We're nearing the tail end of Chris Christie's second term as governor, and Election Day can't come sooner. Fortunately, in New Jersey, we have term limits, so come the fall, we will have a new governor, and hopefully one who's more amenable to the types of policies that NJPP is pushing. But we weren't going to leave this to chance, not at all. So NJPP became one of the first states within the SPP network to put together a proactive agenda, one that we called the Blueprint for Economic Justice and Shared Prosperity. Now, this blueprint had dozens of policies across all of our issue areas that we wanted to see the next governor and administration take on. But this blueprint, it was also far more than just a list of policies. It was a new vision for New Jersey, a new vision on how we could build an economy that works for everyone. And people noticed. every single major Democratic candidate for governor that year endorsed our blueprint. And when Phil Murphy became the Democratic nominee and won the primary, he took this blueprint and made it his policy platform, one that he unapologetically stood by in the general election that he won by a whopping 14 percentage points. So now we're going to compress a lot. We're going to fast forward 4 years, and it's now spring of 2021. And I'm proud to say that almost every single policy in this blueprint was signed into law. This right here, this is a testament to the type of work that we're all doing, to rock-solid research and advocacy and strategic communications, all coming together, all working together in unison, knowing what to say, when to say it, and to who. These policies, they raised wages, they expanded workers' rights, they increased access to affordable health care, they raised the standard of living and quality of life for millions of people all across New Jersey. But at the same time, we knew our work wasn't over. Remember, it's spring of 2021. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, one that highlighted some glaring racial inequities all across our state. We knew that going back to the pre-pandemic normal wouldn't be good enough. So what did we do? We tried to recreate the magic from the first blueprint with a new one, the blueprint to secure a just recovery. Now this blueprint, as you can see, it had some unfinished business from the first one, along with some new, bigger, bolder policies to move New Jersey forward and advance racial equity. Things like reparations, things like expanding access to abortion care, things like decriminalizing all drugs, and yes, that state-level child tax credit. We were so confident that this document would guide the policymaking process for the next 4 years in New Jersey, once we got past the November election. And that, my friends, is when things started to go off the rails.
It is still election night in America. Too early to project one of the most closely watched races in the country. This is the governor's race in New Jersey, where the difference separating the two candidates, 61 votes. 61 votes over more than 2 million counted at this point. The Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli neck and neck with the incumbent governor, Democrat Phil Murphy. Now, there are still plenty of votes outstanding. Mostly, it seems, from Democratic areas. We'll show you exactly where in just a moment. But the fact this is even close is seen by many as a success for Republicans.
A close race in New Jersey. Spoiler, Phil Murphy won that election, but by a way tighter margin than anyone saw coming. What was supposed to be a 15, 16, 17-point win turned into a nail-biter that wasn't called until the next day. And while Governor Murphy was able to escape this red wave at the top of the ticket, a lot of his colleagues in the legislature, they weren't so lucky. Up and down the state, from top to bottom, Democrats lost seats in legislative districts that weren't even considered competitive, including the sitting Senate president. He lost his seat to a guy who didn't even run a real campaign. So this red wave naturally had every elected official and their political operatives and consultants trying to explain how this happened. First, they did what they do best, and let me know if this sounds familiar. They blamed progressives and the left. They were saying things like, Murphy went too far in his first term, Murphy did too much too fast, this is a referendum on Phil Murphy's progressive agenda. At NJPP, we were told that progressive policy was dead. Good luck getting anything from your new blueprint passed in the new legislative session. We tried to push back on this narrative, we really did, but it quickly became the conventional wisdom across the state. And that's not all these folks did. Next, they had surveys and polls and focus groups, and they all came back with the same message. Democrats did so poorly because they didn't talk enough about kitchen table issues. Democrats did poorly because they didn't focus enough on affordability. Now, when these articles started breaking in the news, we were all for it at NJPP. See, we love kitchen table issues. We love affordability. We thought this was our chance, our lane to pass our economic security platform. The alphabet soup of tax credits and safety net programs that would make the state more affordable for the folks who needed it most. Things like TANF, the EITC, that new state-level CTC. But we quickly learned that when lawmakers were talking about kitchen table issues, they never specified whose kitchen tables they were talking about. And when they were talking about affordability, well, their definition was much, much different than ours. So as you can see, this is where we get into the debate over affordability, what this word means. We knew at NJPP that we needed to do something quick, that if we didn't reclaim this word, that lawmakers would use it to pass some pretty bad stuff. They were talking about broad-based income tax cuts. Yes, even for millionaires and billionaires. They were talking about cutting property taxes for middle and upper middle class income homeowners, not renters. They were even talking about corporate business tax cuts because corporations are people too, I guess. We had our work cut out for us, and if we didn't do something quick, we would backslide, not only lose the momentum we'd built up over the past 4 years, but they would pass some really bad regressive policies. Policies that would push working class families further behind, widen racial inequities, and ironically, make the state less affordable. So we had our work cut out for us. This was going to be no easy task, but we had an advantage. Because lawmakers, while this word, affordability, was a meaningless buzzword to them, we had policies primed and ready to go that would make the state more affordable for working class and middle class families. Remember that blueprint we talked about earlier? But we also knew that policies alone, as great as they are, they weren't going to win the day. We needed a communications plan, a way to package them all together, to position them as the true meaning of what it means to make New Jersey affordable. The messaging, I'm going to be totally honest, it wasn't hard to come up with, mostly because everyone on staff had already said it, either to themselves or each other, and especially in the water cooler in our Slack channel. Because every time one of these policy proposals, these regressive proposals, would get proposed under the guise of making New Jersey affordable, it'd have us all howling, screaming. Affordable? For who? Who does this make the state affordable for? And that was that. When lawmakers had terrible policies that they said would make the state affordable, we would beg the question, affordable for who? And then when those same lawmakers and members of the press asked us what our vision was, what we wanted, we would tell them a New Jersey that's affordable for everyone. A New Jersey that's affordable for all. But we couldn't do this by ourselves, not even if we tried. So we enlisted our partners. And then a week before Governor Murphy's budget address, we stood on the steps of the State House, flanked by essential workers and advocates for housing, healthcare, immigrants' rights, public education, to unveil and launch our Affordable for All campaign. And let me tell you, right away, we knew that we had something special, that we had a message that would stick. I'm not going to bore you with more screenshots of news clippings and headlines, but believe me when I say that from there on out, all the coverage of New Jersey's budget that year used this affordable for who and affordable for all framework. Because reporters, they loved having a critical lens too, to judge all these new proposals. But it wasn't just them. A week later, this affordable for who question made a cameo appearance in none other than Governor Murphy's budget address.
That is the fundamental question in the discussion over affordability. For whom are we making New Jersey more affordable? Who needs more opportunity? Who needs obstacles knocked down?
None of us knew that that was coming. We were all like super jazzed when we saw it live. So now that speech, that was the official start of budget season, what we like to call it in New Jersey. And right away, we knew that our messaging was working, that we were reclaiming what it meant to make New Jersey affordable. But over the next few weeks and months, as budget season went on, the same couldn't be said about the for all part of our campaign, nor could it be said about the policies behind it. The EITC expansion that we wanted, dead. Lawmakers didn't have the votes to expand it to ITIM filers or immigrant families. The Excluded Workers Fund, dead. Lawmakers didn't want to put any more money in it. TANF reform and boosting TANF, also dead. The bill was too complicated for some lawmakers. They didn't think they could do it in one spring. But the child tax credit, Some lawmakers liked it. Others, most of them, they just didn't see the urgency. They thought, do we really need another tax credit program? Also, don't we already have one of these? We didn't. But we saw an opening, and from that point forward, we wouldn't shut up about the child tax credit, nor would we stop tying it to affordability and how we make New Jersey affordable for all. We brought up the child tax credit in every public event, every press statement, in every social media post, in every meeting with the governor's office and lawmakers. If I'm being honest, though, we had no idea if any of this was working. For those of you who are familiar with New Jersey's budget-making process, it's an insider's game. It's a lot of things, but transparent is not one of them. And then, with a week left in budget season, we got word that the Assembly was going to hear our child tax credit bill. This was a great sign, but we still had no idea what this meant, what the fate of the bill was, what the bill count was. And then, on the last day of budget negotiations, with us all watching the Assembly as they considered this proposal, Assemblywoman Ora Dunn, a Republican co-sponsor of the bill, stood up on the Assembly floor to criticize the proposal that she was a co-sponsor of, all without giving us or any of the other advocates a heads up. Here's what she had to say.
Always do. However, this plan falls short. We can do more. I propose an amendment that combines the best parts of New Jersey policy perspectives, two proposals, which could cost roughly $200 million, significantly more than this bill's $156.3 million, according to an OLS fiscal note. The big differences? The amendment helps people with children above 6 years old and provide larger credit amounts. While this bill provides credits only to families with children under the age of 6, we know bigger kids, bigger expenses. Working and middle-class families need all the relief that they can get, and the proposed substitute provides greater relief than the bill on the agenda. So if we truly care about making New Jersey more affordable, vote for this amendment and maximize tax relief to low-income and middle-class families. After all, what are we here for? We go big, we go bold, or we go home.
Yeah, you heard that right. The biggest criticism of our bill was that the tax credit could be bigger and go to more families. We can live with that. It was in that moment that we knew we were going to win, that our campaign tying the child tax credit to what it means to make New Jersey affordable, that it worked. The lesson here and why I'm presenting today is that sometimes it doesn't matter if you have the best policy proposals or the best research or reports or even the best partners. Sometimes none of that matters unless you also seize and control the narrative. That is how we pass the child tax credit, and that is how we will make New Jersey affordable for all. Also, a hot dog is not a sandwich. Thank you.